You're listening to the Cruise Tips TV Unplugged podcast. This is the start of a 2-week series where we're going to talk about unexpected things that can ruin your cruise or your flight and how to handle them. Welcome to Cruise Tips TV Unplugged. I'm your host, Sherry, and we invite you to join our cruise-loving family as we travel the world creating cruise videos and vlogs. In this podcast, we talk tips, tactics, and strategies to help you make every cruise your dream cruise.
So you're just going to go ahead and go with breaking it into two parts?
I think so. I feel like this is a big topic because there are a lot of things that can go wrong when you travel. So I think we should dedicate the first half of the show to maybe the first 8 or 9 things that can ruin your cruise. And then next week, let's finish up with the rest of the things that can ruin your cruise, but then also talk a little bit about issues that can happen when you fly, because that is something that honestly you have no control over and you have to surrender to, and it's frustrating as heck, but we can at least try to get ahead of it.
See, this is the thing though. We're not just talking about things that can go wrong, things that are unexpected.
Right.
You're actually going to give some solutions on how to avoid or deal with them
Yeah.
if they happen, if they're
Right.
unavoidable.
Yes, exactly. If something does happen, what do you do about it, right? What's your plan of action? And I think for those of us who maybe suffer from a little bit of travel anxiety, sometimes having a plan is a good idea. Just knowing, like, what would I do if this happened can be pretty helpful.
Okay. Well, before we get into that,
Yeah, why are you smirking?
I'm smirking.
I'm picturing the podcast baby in my head right now because you're full on smirking.
It is a lot like this. No, I know you're not. You don't really like to do the news, right?
That cruise news?
But I did come across something that I found fascinating.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and
You're throwing me for a loop here. I have no
I-
idea what you're about to talk about.
I am, because
Okay.
it's not funny if you're ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Okay.
it's actually interesting. I shouldn't say funny.
Okay.
So prepare yourself.
Okay. I am prepared. Tell me what you saw.
Carnival set itself a goal back in 2019
Mm-hmm.
to reduce food waste.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
No.
And they've actually exceeded their goal
Mm-hmm.
because their target was like 40% or something like that. Reduce food waste by 40%. And they have reduced it by 44%.
Wow.
So that's a lot.
That's a lot. How did they do that?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Okay, because I got to hear this. How do you get people to stop wasting food? Because this is like the cruise line can't say, don't put that on your plate. Or I guess they could if they went to like a full serve model at a buffet. But okay, yeah, you're going to have to tell me.
They just come by and say, you're done. I'm sorry. No, they don't. Here's how they really do it. They do it with the help of over 630 biodigesters.
Oh.
And so my question for you is, how do I get that job?
You want to be a biodigester?
I mean,
You want to eat everybody's food waste?
It sounds perfect for me,
Gross.
right?
See, this is totally grossing me out. You might think it's funny, but the first thing that came to my head when you said this is there's something that Carnival Corp employees now do, and that is when a food service employee on a cruise ship takes your plate, they actually take your food waste and they scrape it into its own bin. So now they're also tasked with separating your food into a special thing. So instead of just throwing a dish, like let's just say you're a server at a restaurant, okay? At a restaurant, I don't know how all kitchens work, but usually you go to the back and you put the whole plate in a bin and then the dishwasher handles it, right? No, not on cruise ships. Now, at least Carnival Corp, I know Princess for sure does this. They separate that food waste out and they put it in those little bins. You do not want to be the guy who's hired to eat that. That's disgusting.
But see, I think I would take it above and beyond though. See, I
Okay.
would just lurk around and then say,
Look for the good stuff.
and then say, are you going to finish that?
You got any bacon?
Are you going to finish
You
that?
gonna finish that?
Excuse me. Are you going to finish that?
So they're when they're saying they're reducing food waste, is that really reducing food waste, or is that just another way to dispose of the same food waste? So it's not waste going into landfills or the ocean. They're biodigesting it so that it goes into these little wafer things and then it's less wasty.
It actually liquefies it.
Oh, okay.
It breaks it down and liquefies
Oh,
it. Now,
cool.
what they do with that, I have no idea.
They probably feed the fish with it,
Let me think here.
which would probably be fine.
I think we're both right here because I think they dry it and then they grind it down into a pulp. And I say I think because
God.
I'm reading that. So that is what they do.
It's fascinating.
They use it for organic mulch.
Really?
Really.
Organic mulch?
So
to put on what? The Carnival Cruise Line garden? Like, what do they put the mulch?
I don't know.
I don't either. Okay, well, this has been a fun conversation.
I mean, I just went a long way out of my way
You
here
did.
for that one little joke.
Well, and we certainly hope that people aren't like, where's my topic here, folks? I came here to talk about.
Coming.
Okay.
You come for the topic, you stay for the comedy. I don't know.
You do. There's actually been some fascinating cruise news, though, lately. Some neat cruise news I think that people should know about, but we're going to go like super turbo on some of this cruise news. Number one, if you're a Carnival cruiser, Carnival Valor just came out of dry dock. You can read about that at CruiseTipsTV.com. Oh, and another one, Holland America has a really new, cool Caribbean cruise program. They're basically trying to appeal to people who would want to go on a cruise but don't want to go to like an amusement park. They don't want the amusement park crowds, but they want to do a wonderful Caribbean cruise. And so what they've done is they've like laid out what this campaign is all about. It's called Refreshingly Free. And they're saying, look, you don't have to go on a huge ship with a bland, yucky buffet that feels like an amusement park at sea. Instead, come to us and we're going to give you less crowded beaches, less crowded ships, and a leisurely form of travel. And they're having a little sale. So you can also search that on our website by just typing in Refreshingly Free or Holland America or whatever. But you can check with your travel agent too. If you're a Holland America fan, maybe give the Caribbean a try.
Interesting.
I'd like to do that.
But how does that work, though? If they attract everyone with the sale, how do they keep the crowds? Is it just crowd management?
They're being really honest about what it is and who it's for. And I think they're still going to attract their audience, which is, in a lot of cases, they're basically saying, we know that we're attracting people who are like over 60, right? Like silver sailors. Like they'll actually tell you that's part of it. But they're also trying to attract a little bit of multi-generational families, especially during breaks where they can accommodate that. But they're not trying to say this is for everyone. They're just trying to say, hey guys, FYI, we're here for you for the Caribbean and we're adding some new perks and we're doing a sale and we're sweetening the Have It All premium fare where that you get some inclusions and stuff and trying to get people to kind of gear that way. But I don't think it's going to be like gangbusters. Every ship is going to suddenly be crowded and sold out or anything like that.
All right. So you want to hit that topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
Now I know why we had to split it over two different.
Yeah, because we get a little chatty.
Yeah.
But that's
no, I did that. I derailed you.
Yeah, but podcasts are supposed to be that way. It should be long form, and it should be something that you can listen to casually. And of course, if you want to take notes on the topic, that's great. But I think it's a nice opportunity to distract and sidetrack. So the topic, if anyone's forgotten, since we derailed.
I forgot.
We're talking about unexpected stuff that can ruin your cruise and what to do about it. So the first one we have to talk about is like a medical emergency that might happen at sea. And whoever knows this is going to happen, right? You don't go on a cruise and say, I am going to have an appendicitis and need to have my appendix removed. You don't know. These are things that are obviously unexpected, unpredictable, but serious illness or injury when you're far away from land with limited medical facilities on board. Dude, that's scary.
It is. And if you think it's not going to happen, it happens every cruise.
Every cruise.
Every cruise.
And you could be that person who's needing to be medevaced. It does not only and always happen to people who are older. Necessarily things happen. Could have happened to us. Had you had that appendicitis that you had in January a few years ago on a cruise ship, you would have had to have been medevaced, most likely. You got to have surgery. You had to get that thing out. There would have been, and you're young and healthy. There was no signs of it. It just came out of nowhere.
Well, and other things can happen too. For instance, we were on an excursion one time and somebody stepped on a shell or a bottle.
Oh, yeah.
Cut his foot open really
bad.
So,
yeah.
I mean, he didn't have to be evac'd or anything, but it's still a medical emergency.
Yeah, they put him on an earlier boat with us. That's how we knew it was going on. They said, this guy's going, we're in a private tour. And they said, no, not anymore. This guy's going with you. And we were glad. We were super glad that we could get him back and ended up chatting with him on the boat. And then also back on the cruise ship, we would see him throughout the week and ask him how he was doing and all of that. But anyway, let's talk about prevention here. You can't prevent a medical emergency from happening, most likely, right? You can decide maybe if I'm in poor health, should I cruise? That's all something you have to talk about with your doctor. But the real prevention here, the real thing you must do is buy comprehensive travel insurance that has medical evacuation coverage. Okay, so that's your action item, number one. Action items after that are to bring a list of your medications, bring your medical history on a document, especially if you have multiple different medical conditions, comorbidities, whatever you want to call them. The more stuff you have going on, the more we recommend that you write that down. Get the medications, the medical history, and the emergency contact list, like your doctor, written down on a document, stored somewhere on, digitally and on paper. That way, if something happens and you get rushed to the medical center, your spouse or your travel companion or you can grab that document and take it with you and just be like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. These are the medications I'm on. Here are my home medical providers, and you're good to go. Another thing that we learned, unfortunately, during the pandemic, at the start of the pandemic, with what happened on Diamond Princess, when a bunch of cruise travelers were stranded on that ship next to the shore when the pandemic was breaking out. It was like ground zero for the pandemic, is that you must pack extra medication, prescription medication with you in your carry-on luggage. You got to decide what your rule of thumb duration is for that. For me, since I take blood pressure medication, I always take 7 extra days of blood pressure medication with me. It could be that I actually need more than 7 days, but for me, that's what I do. So what do you do if you're experiencing a medical emergency, right? Obviously, that's going to depend on where you are when it's happening, how serious it is. But obviously, the first thing you want to do is contact the ship's medical center. You can typically pick up the phone and call them, but did you know that when you're on a cruise ship, almost every cruise ship, if you pick up any phone anywhere on that cruise ship and dial 911, that the medical team will respond. They have systems in place. So 911, just like when you are at home, works on a cruise ship and someone can come assist you. So you also, you have to go into, if you go on a cruise, you have to know that if something happened to you, something very serious, and you weren't close enough to land for that cruise ship to turn around or get you back safely, somehow by boat, that you may have to be evacuated by helicopter, maybe the Coast Guard coming out to get you to the nearest hospital by helicopter, or the ship could have to divert. And this kind of thing, you guys, oh my goodness, this can be so expensive without medical evacuation coverage. So be sure that that is a clause in your travel insurance policy and work with your travel agent on that.
Insurance is the key here. And I'm going to be a spoiler and let you know that it's going to be key for handling a lot of these things here.
Right. Yeah, insurance is a lot of times that's the prevention, right?
We should have got a sponsor.
Travel insurance sponsor. Yeah.
It's true, though. And no one likes to think about insurance. I can't stand the thought of insurance. It's expensive. You don't want to need it. You don't want to use it. But
right. We're all strapped with it in other areas of our life anyway. We're all paying medical insurance, vehicle insurance, life insurance, right? Necessary evil. So medical emergencies, hopefully, that may be medical emergencies 101 for some people. It might be new to you. This may be something you already knew about, but either way, carry all of that information with you. It is also a good idea to take your medical insurance cards, even though it's very unlikely that they're going, if you're a United States resident, super unlikely that your medical insurance would work anywhere else in the world or on the ship or anything like that. But Canadian residents actually have unique medical coverage, sort of according to their country's rules. So if you live in Canada, you probably know how that works already. But regardless, I do believe that travel insurance is probably something that most people need to buy no matter what.
So to sum up this one, you need insurance and like a medical go bag.
Yeah, like with your a paper
All
go
your
bag.
medicine, exactly.
Medical history, emergency contacts, doctors written down.
Grab and go.
And a list of what you have going on with you, right? If you're diabetic, if you have a few other things going on, write them all down, put your medical history, put your contact numbers on there, whether it's doctors, specialists, people at home that can help in an emergency. If something happens and you're unconscious and you have that somewhere, that could be great. You might want to tuck that into your passport in the safe.
A lot of
Fold that document, put it in your passport.
It can be kept on your phone too.
It can, but what if someone needs to find it quickly? I get into debates with people about storing documents electronically versus printing them in paper. I believe you're right. I think everything should be stored electronically, but I think some things still need to be printed. Yeah. Phones get lost. Phones die. Internet connection and Wi-Fi connectivity fails.
Well, if you pass out too, no one
knows where to look
in your phone.
Yeah.
Right?
They're not going to know, okay, I have a folder here or there that has that. They're not going to know where to go. They may not know where to go either way. But like I said, if you put it in your passport in the safe or next to it, your medical thing, that could be helpful.
So right about now, I'm feeling bad about throwing you off for 5 or 10 minutes because we're
only on number one.
Yeah, just number one.
Okay, we'll do as much as we can today and move it to the next one because this is a topic that's going to help people forever and ever. And I don't care if it goes long. It's really good information.
All right. Preach, girl.
Preach. Okay, so next one.
Number two
thing that can totally suck. This is my professional
technical terms
language is if you miss your cruise departure entirely. That's bad. That's everyone's worst nightmare. And speaking of travel anxiety, if you've got travel anxiety, this is what be keeping you up at night. You are like, I do not want to miss my flight. I do not want to lose my passport. So what do we mean by this, right? You could have a flight delay, and Lord knows we could find dozens of stories of times that this has happened to people.
You're stuck in traffic on the 101.
You're saying the 101. You're such a California boy if you say the 101.
Yeah.
You're stuck in traffic on the 101. You don't make it to LA for your cruise out of Long Beach. That drive should have taken you 26 minutes, and it took you 14 hours.
Yeah,
joking.
It's a real thing.
Yeah,
though.
It feels like it.
I mean, because you think it's going to go smoothly and there's a huge accident and suddenly you can't get to the airport.
Sure. Or you can't get to the cruise port, whatever. Right? Yeah. And it can also, you guys, it can be poor planning too. It could be like, oh, I'm the guy who decided to fly into my cruise port the morning of, and then all flights out of your airport got canceled that day. And it's not something you can drive to. That's called poor planning.
Yeah, and there's a subset of people out there who are last minute.
Oh yeah,
they think I don't want to deal with the crowds.
I know.
And there's not. If everything goes well, that's not a bad strategy because it's less rushed and there are less crowds. But if something doesn't work out, you could be regretting it.
So wait, you're saying there's certain people who just like to arrive to the cruise port late?
Yeah, last minute because they don't want to deal with the lines.
I feel like when I cruise with my family, my brothers were like that. They're like, we're busy. We have work to do. We're just going to get there at 3.
And your dad?
I'm like, don't you guys want to get on the ship? Aren't you excited for your vacation?
No.
I find that really weird when people arrive
like I said,
super
there
late.
are people like that. And like
don't
I
want
said,
the crowds.
if you kind of think about it, it's a little bit more relaxed. You just stroll right on.
Right on, yeah.
But
what if your cruise ship is one of those itineraries where the ship pulls away at 3 instead of like 5 p.m. and you just didn't pay attention and the all aboard time was really 2 p.m. and you just botched it? That can happen.
Or I'm thinking again along the lines of traffic, like even at the terminal, like everything goes great until you hit the terminal and suddenly you have a massive traffic jam and you just cannot get to the ship.
You're in an Uber and you're looking outside and the lady pushing a baby stroller is going like 10 times faster than you. Right? Like, yes, it can happen. So, okay, so let's talk about this. So how do you prevent it? This is I think we're kind of going down the obvious road here, that the prevention here on this one is to get to your cruise port like at least a day early, more if you can. But here's a really good and more actionable tip. And that is when you are booking those flights the day before or a couple days before, you actually want to book flights that arrive by mid-afternoon, the day before sailing, because you can still miss a cruise ship if your flight leaves the day before. If you book a later flight in the day and something happens at that airport and your aircraft is out of commission, the chances of things going wrong with flights increases throughout the day because there's fewer aircrafts that they can pull in and utilize in the event of an emergency. So Get those early morning flights booked, whatever day it is you're flying in, get in early if you can. Another thing you can do, and this is controversial, but you could consider flying in with the cruise lines air. I love some cruise line air programs. Princess and Royal Caribbean are the two that I will absolutely use. I will book it for so many reasons, but having the added insurance the assurance, I should say, that if you miss your flight and you booked it through Princess Easy Air or Royal Caribbean's, I forgot what it's called, I think it's Air to Sea, they're going to guarantee that they get you there or pay for getting you to the next port. That is not the case with your airline. So that's another thing that you could consider doing, right? So what do you do if you feel like you're going to miss your cruise departure? Like, what happens if whatever bad thing has happened? It's the worst case scenario, but you're there, you're at the airport. All flights out of Denver have been grounded due to snow, and you are, as they say, Scrooged.
Again with the technical terms.
Again with the Sherry being a bit crass. First thing you should do is contact the cruise line, let them know what's going on. The second thing you should do is contact your travel insurance company if you have some kind of trip interruption, policy there. They should be able to help you. You might actually need to fly to the next port at that time to rejoin the ship, or you could actually lose the whole thing. This is where you're at right now, but communication is really key. You also, really what I should have said is first thing you should have done is called your travel agent, who hopefully booked all of this for you or assisted you. Maybe they booked the cruise, but they didn't book the flight. A lot of travel agents these days do not book the flights, and that's for a number of reasons. It may be that they don't like to book them, or it may be that passengers prefer to book their own. If you booked through the cruise lines air, they have special numbers that they can call and take care of things for you. So get on the phone, call those 3 different entities. Most likely your travel agent will be the first call. The cruise line may be the second call, and your travel insurance company might be the third call. And start getting ready to plan how you're going to get to that ship.
Good advice.
Yes. Okay, so number 3 is what happens with severe weather, right? Something disrupts your itinerary. You have got a hurricane, you've got a storm, maybe there's some kind of massive rough seas happening, and you've got news that your itinerary is going to change, your shore excursions have been canceled, and oh, by the way, your cruise is now 3 days instead of 5. This happens.
It happens. And again, I'm going to jump in and say, get ready for it. Happens all the time.
All the time.
And really the best thing, there's more to add to this, but the best thing you can do is prepare for it mentally, especially if you book during hurricane season. Definitely get yourself prepared mentally.
Yeah.
Because then when it happens, it's going to be easier to accept.
What that also means is if you book a cruise only for a single port, if you're like, I'm only booking this cruise because I'm dying to go to St. Thomas, you really should psychologically know that port could change. Is it likely to happen during the non-storm season? It's less likely if you're not booking during hurricane season. But the moment you step into that like September through November period where peak hurricanes are happening, it happens all the time, you guys, all the time. It has happened to us at least, I'm going to say, if you had to guess how many numbers of times this has happened in the Caribbean, how many?
Well, honestly, I kind of just got used to it. It's not even just the Caribbean. We've missed Alaskan ports before.
Yep. And usually that's weather.
At least 10, but probably more 10. Because I take it all in stride now. Yeah. I hear the captain and I go, oh, that's a shame. And then you just go about your day.
Go about your day. Now we do. Yeah. But in the beginning, it can feel very disruptive. Okay, so what can you do to prevent this? I suppose you could say, I'm never going to book a cruise during hurricane season, right? But for most people, that's a missed opportunity because hurricane season can be great. Especially, we're talking about the Caribbean right now. Storm season maybe in Mexico, early season in Alaska, late season in Alaska. But it can be cheaper. There can be fewer kids because kids are back in school. It could be a really pleasant and lovely time to cruise. But if you're going to be doing any kind of cruise booking during that time to the Caribbean or Bahamas, you should 100% be ready for some change. Okay. So that's your first prevention, right? Stay flexible with your expectations. What happens if something starts to unfold in this department. You've got the news. There's some kind of a severe weather disruption. Well, the first thing you have to do is try to focus on the fact that the captain's trying to keep you safe. Safety comes first, always. The cruise line's goal is to keep you safe, number one, and happy, number two. They must keep you safe. That's priority number one. They want to keep you happy. So try to not catastrophize this and walk around the ship yelling at other passengers.
Hang on for a second.
Oh.
What was that word again?
Catastrophize. To imagine the worst possible outcome of an action or event, to think about a situation or event as being a catastrophe or having potential catastrophic outcome. Catastrophize.
Very nicely done.
I swear to you, it's in Merriam-Webster.
No, I believe you.
Yeah. But people will, you guys, if you have an itinerary change, people will be walking around the ship cussing. Not every cruise line. Catastrophizing in a very crass way. You will have people flipping their lid. I only booked this cruise because I wanted to go to St. Thomas. I have no idea why I'm using St. Thomas, but you guys, you're on a moving vessel. The captain cannot steer you into a storm.
Yeah, you just never know too, because we've seen crowds like they used to gather people sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think one time, it might have been on Royal Caribbean, they did not handle it well at all.
The cruise line didn't?
No, not the cruise line.
Oh, the passengers went ballistico.
They went, but then
I think it was on Harmony of the Seas.
It might have been. But there have been other instances where, like I said, the captain announces something and people go, oh well.
Yeah, oh well, right. The more experienced typically cruisers are, the more they roll with these things.
I think so.
And it is understandable that you would be upset. It is understandable that if something is marketed to you a certain way, that you expect to be delivered that product. That I do get. But if it's, truly a storm or something, you have to understand. So the other thing you have to understand is that the cruise line's going to do what they can to entertain you, right? They're going to try to give you alternate activities. Sometimes they might give you some onboard credit. They might hold special parties. When a port gets canceled, the cruise director and their staff are in nightmare mode. For them, this is a nightmare because they have to keep you busy and happy. They would much rather have you out off the ship and on the beach doing what you signed up for rather than having 4,000 unhappy passengers who are expecting to be entertained. Their whole world changes when a port gets canceled, right? So be kind to them as well, but expect that they will pivot for you and do what they can to keep you entertained. This could become an insurance thing, guys. Generally speaking, weather delays, stuff like this, they're not always covered by insurance, but some of it could be. So you might want to keep some documentation of what's happening, especially if your departure day changes and you have to pay extra money to get home and the cruise line's not covering the cost of maybe a flight change. Your insurance may cover some of that. So document as much as you can. Save paperwork the cruise line gives you, write things down, write times, dates, and events, and be ready to kind of, file a claim if you need to, if you're economically impacted and your insurance covers it when you get home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read through your policy.
Yeah.
So you know.
Oh, number 4 is kind of my biggest fear.
Yes.
Getting food poisoning or norovirus, which basically is kind of the same thing, on a cruise ship. That is so unavoidable and so unexpected, and it's horrible, but it does happen. Gastrointestinal illnesses spread quickly in closed environments, whether they are a ship, whether they are a school. Schools are famous for getting norovirus and other gastro illnesses. Healthcare facilities, daycare facilities, elder care facilities, all of those places.
All of them, but it's not as cool to say as it is to just say it happens on cruises all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And
the
cruise ships have to report about it.
Yeah, they get singled out, but
Yeah.
it happens all over the place.
It does. So this may be something you can't avoid, but there are a lot of things that I know a few doctors who will tell you there are some very simple things you need to do. And the first thing is you need to wash your hands with hot, soapy water. You need to use basic hand hygiene frequently, right before eating, after eating. Anytime you can possibly do that, do it. Use hand sanitizers. Use your own bathroom whenever possible on a cruise ship. Go back to the room if you can. This is not always going to be possible. I use public restrooms every single day on a cruise ship. Don't get me wrong. But where you can go back to your room, always a good idea, right? Because some of these things are airborne and they can spread very quickly. And if someone is getting sick in a bathroom, you could have more exposure, right? Let's be honest. Also, you might want to avoid buffets during their crowdedest times. Like when there's gazillions of people in the buffet, you might want to think about minimizing a little bit. And honestly, get those hands clean. After you go touch all of those utensils and you scoop food onto your plate at a buffet, go wash your hands with hot soapy water or use the alcohol wipes that we recommend all the time. And get those hands clean. And do not put your hands in your mouth, near your mouth, on your straw. Just be very careful with anything going into your mouth or nose or eyes.
It's an inconvenient step.
Yeah, it is.
That part where you go scoop everything in and then head back to the table, no one wants to redo their hands, rewash.
Right.
But I'm telling you, that's
if
where
we
it all
just did this.
It's where it all happens, in my opinion.
It is true. And buffets there are many, many facts and studies that have pinpointed outbreaks. I think that the COVID outbreak in Japan actually originated. They did originate it to a buffet spread. So with that said, you guys, another thing too with prevention is please don't board a ship if you're super sick. Like if you've got an active gastro illness, for the love of God, please call the cruise line. Or tell someone, even if you go to the terminal and you, right when you get there, you're like, I'm not doing the right thing. I shouldn't get on this ship. Please tell someone. They have doctors that can evaluate you on the ship or in the terminal, and they will do what they can to help you.
It's a killer, though.
It's a hard thing. Look, I know you paid, you saved.
They wait and
they
save.
I know it.
And then just out of pure bad luck,
I know.
You get sick. And who wants to pull the
horrible.
plug on their vacation?
I know.
I think a lot of people think, well, hopefully I'll be better.
Yeah. Let's talk about how to handle it if it happens though, right? You're sick on a ship, suddenly you're vomiting. Maybe you have the other symptom as well that's very unpleasant. You got to tell the medical center, guys. I know nobody wants to be quarantined to their room, but for them to best assess if you have it, if you have norovirus, or if it's maybe something different, it is the right thing to do. They can also investigate and quickly isolate what this is and if it is perhaps norovirus or not. They know how to tell if you have food poisoning versus norovirus, and you're also just doing the right thing in general, right? They can also help you to prevent from spreading it. They can help your family, and they can also provide you, if you are quarantined in your cabin, you're probably going to get an expanded room service menu of some sort, and you may get free medical care. You may not too. These days, I think they're probably starting to charge a little more, but following COVID, if you had something go wrong, generally speaking, they were going to make sure you didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, I think they were on the right track with a lot of that stuff, and then they kind of backed off a bit.
Yeah.
And understandably so. It's expensive to maintain stuff like that, but
yeah,
it's unfortunate.
So this next one is really rough if it happens. We're going to make this our last point for this week and then come back and finish the list next week. But number 5 is you end up with a lost or stolen passport while you're traveling, right? Now you're stranded in a foreign port without proper identification, potentially, right? So what do? Some of these steps may be moot, but they're going to give you peace of mind, and they can help you potentially if something goes wrong. What you want to do is, in advance, to prevent the worst of the worst here, you want to make copies of all of the important documents, store them separately, okay? So take a copy of your passport, put it in a different bag from your passport in case your backpack gets stolen. You might even consider leaving a copy at home with someone. You definitely want to put a digital copy on your phone. I highly recommend making a passport, driver's license, and social security card folder. There are probably people who would kill me for saying this because putting your social security number on your phone and a picture, but I think it's a good idea. The other thing, you guys, if you really wanted to be 100% prepared in case this were to happen, if you're going on a closed loop cruise, you could choose to sail with your photo ID, your real ID, and your birth certificate as a backup, because if something goes wrong, you might be able to get home with the birth certificate and the photo ID instead of just a passport, depending on where you are. But if you lose your passport, if it gets stolen, if something happens, the first thing you want to do is contact the nearest U.S. embassy, the consulate. They can help you get an emergency replacement. It will be easier if you have a passport photo. It's not going to solve every problem to have a passport photo, but at least you have the passport number, the expiration, some information, right? You might also consider filing a police report if something happens, if it was stolen, especially. And you might not be able to get back on the ship. If something happens while you're in port, they may have to leave you there. I do not want to freak people out because this is extremely rare. And usually no one's going to get left in a port unless there's like a medical emergency or they did something wrong. They got off the ship and they don't have ID to get, whatever. Their ID is still on the ship. But worst case scenario, you could end up getting left behind. But let's not worry about that. Just worry about as soon as you get on the ship, put your passport in the safe. And unless you're told to take it with you into ports, just take your driver's license with you as form of ID into ports. Leave your passport in the safe. Unless they tell you otherwise. They will tell you if you have to take a passport ashore. In Alaska, I can tell you, No, in Alaska it was all driver's license, no passport.
Sorry.
But you have to have some form of photo ID.
Right, and they typically, in a lot of cases, they tell you to take it off, and then they never ask for it. But in Alaska, and this is what I was trying to say, they do ask for it in a couple of the ports. I think it was Skagway?
Remember.
No, not Skagway. Juneau, maybe?
I don't remember this last time. I do remember it being one time out of like 6 or 7 different times we got off the ship.
They did not do it this time, but they have previously.
Yeah, it's a good idea to take your driver's license with you, though. So we had a feeling this was going to be a longer one. So next week, we're going to talk about more things. I'm going to give you a couple of little teasers, but not talk about every single thing. We're going to talk about cabin issues, like what happens if something breaks in your room.
It does happen.
We're going to talk about luggage disasters. We're going to talk about flights. We're going to talk about disasters back home, stuff like that. So tune in next week, you guys. And thank you all so much for listening week after week. We appreciate you so much. And until next time, we'll see you on the high seas.
Thanks for listening to Cruise Tips TV Unplugged. If you like our show and want to know more, check us out at CruiseTipsTV.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram by searching Cruise Tips TV. We'd love if you'd leave us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast, subscribe to the show, and tune in next week. Until next time, we'll see you on the high seas.